Welcome back to another episode of Chris and Harry Unplugged. I'm Harry Sisson. I'm a 21-year-old liberal. I've been posting content on TikTok mainly since 2020. Now it's 2024. My goal is to help get Joe Biden reelected and Democrats all the way down the ballot.
Yeah, and I'm Chris Mowry. I'm 22 years old. I'm a Gen Z Democrat from Georgia. I started posting political content in October of 2022. Kind of out of the blue, randomly, with no real expectations, and it kind of propelled me into this field of politics and also trying to help Joe Biden win the election. I think both of us have been passionate about politics since about 16 when Donald Trump won the election. They always say that Trump got a lot of Gen Zers involved in politics because a lot of us hated him, still hate him. And he's gonna regret that because now we're all
Big time.
We're all fighting against him.
Now we're voting age.
Now we're voting age. That's correct. So. We both of our main platforms is TikTok. If you've never been here before, but we also do have this podcast together that we post every Monday at 1 o'clock or try to. If you guys are here on YouTube right now, you might notice we are actually in the same room together. This is the first ever in-person podcast that we've done. Harry and I right now are in the District of Columbia. We're in D.C. Decided to kind of escape. I'm in Atlanta. He's in New York. So decided to kind of escape for a bit, and just for a couple days, literally have just been making tons of content, going live on TikTok. We do debates every single night. We got a PlayStation here playing video games. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. I think it's been a good couple days, just chopping it up about politics, and it's cool. Like doing an in-person pod is so much more, I think, fun than maybe the one on when we have we have this program where we log in the studio, have to set up the microphone, the lighting, all this stuff. It's like a whole thing. But this is better.
Yeah, no, this is better. And it's genuinely been relaxing. I feel like a lot of people ask they asked me at least how we met, and I feel like a lot of people don't know now that we've become really good friends.
Yeah.
We met maybe 8 months ago, 9 months, something like that. 8 or 9 months.
It has to be a year now.
You think it's been a year?
Yeah, I think so. At least.
No, actually, you're probably right. God, it's already almost March.
Yeah, it's almost March.
Because I started posting and he followed me one day, and then I hopped in his live one day, and I think it just turns out not only do we both very much passionate about the same things, we're just good friends, playing Madden, playing Modern Warfare, just chopping it up.
Yeah, just having a good time.
So. With that in mind, like we said, it's a special episode of Chris and Harry Unplugged. We're available on all platforms. If you do want to see the YouTube and see us sitting next to each other, you can check that out. I think today we just wanted to really talk about what's kind of on everybody's mind and have a general conversation coming from two people who objectively spend the majority of our days invested in politics, thinking about politics, reading the news, commenting on politics. It's kind of all we do. And most people these days ask us kind of the quote unquote elephant in the room, which is, Biden is polling low. A lot of people, there's been very, very many, lots of rumblings about in the last 4 weeks about Joe Biden dropping and not being the nominee, and a lot of questions about his mental acuity. And so Harry and I, from the perspective of being two Biden supporters, and we wanted to talk a little bit of about our opinions on some of these dynamics and what we've seen. How's that sound? Good?
I think it sounds good to me.
I think it sounds good.
Sounds good.
So let's start with this. So in the last few weeks, we saw her report, a special counsel report that kind of really exploded this narrative to a whole new level, where the special counsel exonerated Joe Biden from any wrongdoing and very much pointed out that his classified documents were different than Donald Trump's. But they also took shots, her took shots at Biden's mental acuity. And so I was kind of curious what you thought about the report first off, and then we can talk a little bit about the dynamics of the PR from Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, I just that report was insane. This was a straightforward, this is what we found, this is what happened, this is what he did, what he didn't do, and an exoneration, right? But instead, special counsel Hur decided to take some cheap shots and word things in a way that makes it seem like he is making a psychological determination about Joe Biden, as he is unqualified to do. He's a prosecutor, not a neurologist, for example. Many experts in the legal field have condemned this report, saying that it is politically motivated or that there is politically charged language at a minimum. And I just think it's gross. I just think it's gross what Hur did. And the main story from this should be Joe Biden exonerated. Joe
Yeah.
Biden did not intentionally, willfully, knowingly retain classified documents, national defense information, and he is not being charged with a crime, which is the truth. But instead, her wanted the spotlight and took a bad approach. But what do you think about the report?
No, I agree. I think that's well said. I also think, talking about like the PR, the kind of comms side of it, which I'm always like, my brain is always fascinated with, is I think like that is really the moment that the entire discussion around the potential for him to drop or his mental acuity really was hitting the spotlight hard. And I think it's fascinating that, like after that report, the White House within 30 minutes, kind of very randomly that night, set up a press conference with Joe Biden where he just came out swinging, right? And out of his 1,500 word speech, he messed up one word. It was, and that kind of dominated the headlines. The rest of his speech, 1,499 words. In my opinion, he was sharp. He was taking swings, and it was good. And then, he messes up the president of. He refers to the president of Egypt as the president of Mexico, or something along those lines. And again, it's all that people talk about. And I never like to say I never use the term like the media. I don't really like that. Like I think it's kind of like
sounds Trumpy.
Yeah, it sounds Trumpy. It's like the media. I don't think there's anything like nefarious going on. I think it is fascinating, like the political dynamic around this of like objectively, right? One side clearly is so not put together, whether you're a Trump supporter or not. I think you can agree, like one side is just kind of outrageous in a way that we've never seen. So we, every single day from the Republican aisle, we hear something that to most people at this point is very like, you're very desensitized. Everyone just kind of scrolls past it. Trump says something outrageous. He's been talking about, he said multiple times this month that Obama is in charge of the country. He said in 2016 he ran against Biden. He said Obama was pushing us toward World War II. Like, it's very normal to see Trump slip up, rant, say, windmills are causing cancer or causing the whales to come ashore. Marjorie Taylor Greene to compare Donald Trump to Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. Like, these are all things at this point for the American public are very desensitizing. Like, we see them. And so it's like he can do all that and no one really cares. But I think it's interesting, the dynamic of like Democrats as a whole are the party of like the adults. And so I think when you have like something like this happen, a slip up that objectively is much more minor, it's like what everybody wants to talk about, because it's like so everybody is so desensitized. Trump could say anything at this point and no one would be surprised. He could slip up in a way no one would be surprised. But when all the people who look very put together have one slip up, it's like everybody wants to talk about it. And I think that's like fascinating to this discussion.
No, it is. And like I we've talked about this before. People are now holding Joe Biden to a godly standard. If he can't fly, if he can't move buildings by himself, right? Apparently he's not fit to serve, right? This guy, he can't do it. He must be a bad president. We should vote in the insurrectionists. That makes sense, right? So they're holding Joe Biden to a different standard than Donald Trump. And like, again, the comparison I make in my TikTok lives all the time is like, look, people were freaking out about Joe Biden saying, oh, president of Mexico instead of Egypt. And I'm like, Trump did the exact same thing with Viktor Orban, leader of Hungary, called him leader of Turkey, right? And nobody says a word. Nobody gives a damn. Donald Trump confuses his ex-wife with E. Jean Carroll in the photo. Nobody gives a damn. And then I just think, aside from like the mental acuity stuff, just look at what Trump said recently at a rally, that Black Americans like him more because he's been indicted. What the and there was like some hubbub about it. There was some, like, oh God, that's not a good thing to say. And then, well, we move on. But Joe Biden messes up a country. We're still talking about it.
Right, exactly. No, that's a great point. Like, and again, I think you and I are under the same impression that like, it's not us, saying the immediate pivot of like, oh, Biden does it, well, Trump does it too. It's actually a conversation of like, this is absurd because the same people attacking Biden, no one wants to speak about Trump. It's like Trump's stuff just gets swept on the rug. It's very confusing. And I think, it's a fascinating conversation. I think I wanted to start off with like that idea of, like kind of building this narrative, but also we want to talk a little bit about this idea that's come to the limelight of like Biden not being the nominee. And look, I think I want to say this for everybody watching and their knowledge of politics, just so they understand. You know, uh, at this point in the race, Joe Biden, no other president can. I'm so sorry, I can't speak. Let me try this again. At this point in the race, there is only roughly 2 or 3 states that you can still actually get on the presidential ballot. So you have to meet certain qualifications. You have to get a certain amount of signatures. And so, you know, there's a deadline for that. And so at this point, if you're watching and you're kind of confused, you're like, I don't really understand how this would work. You know, there is no potential nominee that could just like pop up out of the blue and be like, I'm running. That does not exist anymore. Joe Biden is very obviously the nominee. So again, just so you understand how this would work, Joe Biden would have to win every single state. Well, he is going to win every single state. He'd win all the delegates, and then in August there would be a DNC convention where he would essentially supposed to give a speech accepting the nomination for president of the United States. Hypothetically, at that speech, he would say, I'm not accepting the nomination. And then he can essentially, via some nuanced process, give his delegates to somebody else. So for about 2 months, from August to like the end of July, there would be this mad scramble to figure out who the nominee would be. And then the DNC would, I guess the DNC, there's some like nuanced process of who then gets the nomination. So I just want to explain that just again as like a basis of understanding of like, when we say like, you know, when people say like Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee, you know, there's not going to be like some person who just pops up. It's too late for that. And so do you really feel like, I'm just curious, like your thoughts when somebody brings this up. I feel like I get this a lot in person. It's like, I get this all the time, actually. Like my extended family or like people know I'm very invested. They're like, do you really think Joe's going to run? If that was just a question someone posed.
Yeah, I always say yes. I mean, you know, I would recommend for the viewers, like, first of all, you're spot on with the description of like how it happens. Like, that is complex stuff. You know what I mean? It's not something that is going to be like, oh, you know, like Joe Biden, you know, at 12 o'clock decides he doesn't want the nomination. Then 1 o'clock we have a new nominee. It's like, no. There are going to be so many figures in conversation, different people advocating for different people. If you're from the Midwest, maybe you take a Whitmer. If you're from the West, you take a Gavin Newsom, right? And that's just such a complex process. And the Democrats, while doing that, will further give the Republicans ammunition. They'll make their cases to why this person is bad and this person is bad. And then eventually that chosen nominee will be damaged by our own party, only giving the Republicans more ammo. I mean, we're seeing what Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are doing to themselves right now. It's dirty. It's not good. Unity is good. And so first of all, the process is complex. And why go through that? Why go through that when we have a perfectly capable, very productive, very historic president? I think that, you know, Joe Biden's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy for 2024. It is when we say it's very likely to be Trump versus Biden, we're not saying it on the Biden side. We're saying it on the Trump side, barring him like going to prison for the rest of his life, and then the Republicans ditching him finally. Although, you know, that might be a pipe dream as well. But no, I mean, I say like Joe Biden's the guy to run. And he's our guy, and I'm going to be voting for him in 2024. How do you respond when someone says that to you?
I agree. I just think like it's gotten it was a fringe idea, and all of a sudden it's gotten very loud. But I'm not sure I've seen again anything to suggest that would take place. I think like we're not up here denying that he's like, we're not saying, oh, he's getting younger. We're not wearing all Joe Biden merch. Like, we're not part of like blue MAGA, as some people say. But the idea that, you know, Biden, you know, is not fit, or, you know, someone else needs to run, I think doesn't make sense to me. And I think, like, as many people pointed out, the rap sheet speaks for itself. Like, he's been very productive, passed some like really historic policy. So I just think it's fascinating. I think the entire idea that, you know, like, this is what's kind of like dominating people's minds is fascinating. And we're 4 weeks away from like a New York Manhattan case for Donald Trump, criminal case. Yeah. That like even you asked me today, like at like 3 p.m. in this place, you're like, I wonder why no one's mentioning that's coming up in 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, actually, Chris and I had this conversation today where I said to him, I was like, District Attorney Alvin Bragg is asking for a gag order on Donald Trump to protect jurors, witnesses, court staff, things like that. And this is like his first criminal trial, his first indictment. Today is, well, I guess we're filming this on the 26th of March or February. And so that would mean that a month from now, exactly a month, will be Donald Trump's first criminal trial starting. And does anybody really know that? Does anybody really talking about that? Are we more worried about like Joe Biden eating ice cream today, which I'm not joking, was all over Twitter? And we're not talking about the fact that, oh yeah, like the Republican frontrunner and former president of the United States is going to trial in a month for paying hush money to a porn star and then lying about what that payment was for. I mean, It's just insane.
No, it's completely normal stuff. I think the follow-up question that I always get that I think people like ask me the most, which is part of why I want to like make this video talking about like some of the dynamics here and like what everyone's talking about is like, what do you think the Democrats like their plan needs to be? We have 7-8 months until the election. How do we? I guess the question I always get, assuming that like, the polls are somewhat accurate, whatever. We can never know for sure. But let's assume that like, he's not polling great. They need to kind of turn some things around. What do you think the plan here is that for Democrats? What does it need to be to turn this all around?
Well, that's a good question. It's a tough one because we just don't really know a lot yet. If Trump were, in the middle of a trial, I think I'd have a different answer. But right now, we were talking about this earlier. I think that we got to hammer home the issues, talk about why we're different than them, and talk about why Trump sucks. Like, why does Trump suck so bad? And I think a fourth one, even kind of maybe a subsection under 3, is, as you mentioned earlier, reminding people how bad Trump was, reminding the people of the fact that at the end of the Trump presidency, we couldn't go to the grocery store and get like paper towels regularly. We were also worried that Trump was so mentally unstable from following January 6th that he was going to launch an attack on China. And that's not just us. That was American military generals also under this fear. We were waking up every single day to Donald Trump tweets attacking an ally or praising an enemy or even verbally attacking an enemy, possibly causing a broader conflict. We've gotten very close there a couple of times. So, I think we have to highlight the fact, and I kind of just talked about Trump there, the trap we fall into. But, talk about the issues, talk about how Democrats are better, and talk about how Trump sucks and how much chaos it is.
Well, it's also so hard, I think, for us. Like, we're, like, objectively, like, political nerds. It's like we're actual nerds. It can be hard to not fall in the Trump trap, but that's what we're calling it lately. Like you and I, is the Trump trap. It's like he was just recently voted like by like a very prestigious like they I forget what it's called, but they always like for a long time they've gathered like 170 of the brightest political science people, presidential historians who rank presidents all the time, and they just ranked him the worst president of all time.
Yep.
And really, you don't have to go through all the outrageous controversy. You can just start with like the fact that he's the only president to go against the will of the people, the will of the government, try to overturn an election he didn't win. That pretty much alone gives you the worst right there. I mean, that's like the only.
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
It's some would say.
Maybe.
Not
sure.
But I think that like it's interesting. I always tell people like Democrats need to focus on like cut out just a little bit of the noise. We all want to talk about how Trump is insane and bad and crazy, and on so many of these issues, Democrats dominate, and they need to balance a little bit and just really hammer out like abortion's number one. Democrats will always dominate on abortion. Any poll, I don't care how bad Democrats look in the poll, they still manage to come out on top on abortion. You need to hammer home abortion, especially, IVF was taken away in Alabama. You have all these insane restrictive laws going on around the country because Roe was overturned. Hammer them on abortion, hammer them on climate change, hammer them on gun control, bring out the economy, say these are the bills Joe Biden has passed. This is our plan for the future of America. You don't like it? Okay, ask them what their plan is. Because right now, Donald Trump and MAGA is focused on literal political nonsense. All they do all day is say they have no actual plans for the American people. They just attack political opponents and all that nonsense. Keep asking the questions. This is our plan. This is our plan for 20 years in America. More infrastructure, more jobs, more better wealth distribution. This is our plan. What's their plan? This is our plan. What's their plan? And hammer.
Exactly. No, I agree. I need a Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, rally on abortion. I need Obama out there hitting the airwaves every day about how dangerous Trump is for democracy, and then I need them to let Joe be Joe. I need him to go on the ground, ice cream stores, supermarkets, have his own rallies, but have him talk to people one-on-one, have those connections caught on video, and to just make our strengths, hit our strengths, and talk about the issues. But we have so many talented people in the party. Get Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan talking about manufacturing. Get Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania talking about real freedom. If we have so many talented people in the party, so many people who are so good at what they do. Let's really play into our strengths right now, and not shy away from it.
Yeah, I think objectively, like, as much as I hate to say it, like the messaging as a whole, whether it's from the White House or Democrats, it's got to be less conservative. I think at certain points, like, I really liked, even though it probably scared a bunch of people in that realm, the her report, the press conference, and him mixing up, Mexico and Egypt. I think like it dominated the headlines, but if you watch that speech, he was sharp, he was on it, and he took swings. I mean, he was out there swinging. He told Peter Ducey. I never know how to say his last name. The Fox News reporter, who's objectively an ass. He said, Biden, like, is your what did he say? Is your mental state like falling apart or something like that? And Biden said, it must be, because I forgot I shouldn't have called on you. Like, he's clearly, like he was out there taking swings, and it was good. And I think they need to be a little less conservative, because I always tell you, in terms of like the PR dynamic and people saying, how do you turn this around? I think it's a great point. Bring out a lot of people, Obama, Hillary, Kamala Harris, get them out there, get Biden out there. And people don't talk about, like, Biden's a fundraising machine. Yeah. Biden has way more cash on hand than Trump and Nikki Haley combined. He outraises both of them by a mile. And if you can play to those strengths and just keep hammering it. And I always tell you, like, it's frustrating because Republicans have more in their arsenal in certain senses because they're willing to go so low. They're willing to stand on a stage and lie so outrageously about anything and everything. Sometimes it can be frustrating because I think, like, Democrats don't do that. No. They just don't.
Well, and it's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that it shows that Democrats are the real leaders. They're the adults in the room. They're not here to play games or insult the opponent. They're here to, like, legislate and get stuff done. Where the Republicans obviously are not. But the con is that, like, you're right. Like, Republicans have more attacks in their arsenal that they're willing to go to than Democrats. Like, you won't see Joe Biden talking about Donald Trump's kids. Right. You won't see Barack Obama talking about Trump's wife.
No, that's a great point.
You won't see, any of this stuff, right? You just don't see it because they're people of class, of character, of moral. But the Republicans are not. Trump isn't. I mean, do we not remember Trump in the 2016 primary calling Ted Cruz's wife ugly and then saying that his dad killed JFK?
They'll go. And again, I think for the majority of this conversation, unless we're talking about something specific, like we're talking about elected Republican officials. And like, I think to people, this sounds like kind of like outrageous. Like, we're not trying to suggest that, like, Democrats are the beacon and they never lie. Yeah. It's this idea, and like experts in this field talk about this all the time. I've listened to presidential historians say we have never seen Trump alone as a president lie so continuously, so outrageously all the time. I always go to the Washington Post or Washington Journal database. That's every single lie during his presidency, false or misleading claim is there. You can fact check it. Over 30,000 false or misleading claims. That's over 20 a day. Like. And not only is it the false or misleading claims about his, one of the biggest ones was like his economic policy, claiming, the Chinese tariffs, that China was the one paying the tax, which is like, which is just dead wrong, and just to lie about your own economic policy. But again, even the other lows where all these other, as like Democrats get up on a stage and are like very professional or like talking about the issues or the things Americans are concerned about, like Donald Trump is talking about people's wives, people's kids. He asked he even Nikki Haley the other day, like, what was it, like it was a few weeks ago, where he was like, where's her husband, like, I guess suggesting that her husband was like absent, cheating on her maybe, or they had split, and her husband is out, he's serving right now,
deployed overseas,
he's deployed overseas, and he's like, where is he? No one's seen him. Like, just those, like, when have you ever seen another politician, specifically a Democrat, take a shot like that?
No, never.
Never. And they shouldn't.
Never.
They shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. No, I mean, the Michelle Obama quote, when they go low, we go high. And I think that is good principle in politics. We should, stay focused and not go to their level. And it's very hard to, because these MAGA Republicans in Congress and Donald Trump and maybe even your family members are, how do I be kind about this? A little crazy? Maybe that's the nicest way to put it. They're a little crazy, and they're rude and abrasive. Specifically, Trump is that. And you want to hit back so hard, but look, you got to stay on the moral plane. You got to say, look, I know these people are willing to go to the lows. They're willing to come after Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's family, say that Biden's a bad father because people have personal issues in their lives. But we shouldn't do that, and they will.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Do you, and again, I want to reiterate, a lot of our conversation today is hinging around this idea that kind of what we've been hearing in the last 4 weeks of just this dominating discussion about is Biden fit, is Biden there, is Biden not. I wanted to bring up one more thing before we move, is in all of this that I just posted a video about this. What's fascinating is, again, this idea that Republicans are just willing to, elected Republicans, PR-wise, are willing to do anything and everything. And they're facing a massive narrative problem right now that I feel like no one's talking about, which is, again, now we've got this special counsel report from his own DOJ suggesting taking shots at his mental acuity. And Republicans ask me all the time, Trump supporters say, his own DOJ is saying he's too old, he's not fit, he has no idea where he is, he needs to drop, he can barely walk. But the other dominating narrative that literally Donald Trump's entire campaign run depends on, it all hinges on this idea that Biden is directing his DOJ, weaponizing his DOJ to go after Donald Trump. And those two things are existing on the same plane. The same people are repeating those same things every single day. So is Biden, a mastermind for the first time ever, directing his Department of Justice to go after Trump and I guess make all this fake evidence, against Trump? So his whole DOJ is working for him and will listen to his every order. Or is his DOJ not working for him and they're willing to take shots at him? And again, there's multiple layers to this. Is he so old that he has no idea what's going on? Or is he a criminal mastermind who's directing his DOJ? That would require to know exactly what's going on. So it's they're willing to I think PR-wise, a part of the polling and the conversation, you gotta I don't know. I feel like in a lot of senses, Democrats are entrenched in kind of playing whack-a-mole, trying to whack narratives. Right. There's 100 of them. You just gotta kind of silence the noise a little bit, talk about the issues. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think you find this a lot in Republican, rhetoric, that they're just completely contradictory all the time. Just absolutely all the time. And this is the best example that Joe Biden doesn't know where he is, he's sleepy and all that stuff. But also, Kevin McCarthy called him smart, saying that he's a tough negotiator. Or how about, but Joe Biden doesn't know where he is, he can't walk. Oh, but he's also simultaneously pulled off the greatest crime in American history, and nobody has any evidence of it. Not even Trump-appointed judges, Trump-appointed DOJ, Trump-appointed FBI, Trump-appointed Department of Homeland Security. Nobody.
It would quite literally be the most insane logistical feat to pull off, because you'd be directing them, but then I guess that also suggests that there's not evidence. So then you have to convince all these grand juries and the judges that these indictments are real as they're reading them. But I guess if they haven't figured it out, some people would claim well, they're all in on it too. The judges who are Trump, it's a headache.
No, remember, Chris, everybody in the FBI, everybody in the CIA, everybody in the DHS, everybody in the DOJ, all of these agencies, and by the way, every judge across the United States of America is all in on it. Do you not know this?
Well, no. Well, that's what's funny about that. I always get part of when I actually do get very angry in talking to individual people on TikTok Live when they suggest that. It's always I'm do you have any evidence? They're you just gotta open your eyes. It's almost I think we get frustrated because it almost feels condescending, people are talking down.
Yeah.
Where it's this idea that they're we're MAGA is over here and we see it. We see that you guys are all being played. We have no evidence and we can't really explain it, but just Just open your eyes. Like, we're up here. We get it. You guys are still kind of stuck in the the misinformation.
They're very comfortable in their stupidity.
It's very frustrating.
They're very comfortable in it. They love being in it. Ignorance is bliss is the saying.
That is the saying.
That's the saying. They say, and they love being ignorant. They love believing that there's, criminal mastermind Joe Biden who can't walk downstairs and can't think straight apparently and doesn't
right
doesn't know what's going on.
So answer me this. I think the other, moving just for a second, talking about kind of those are the dynamics, those are the things Democrats need to do moving forward. I think in 7 or 8 months to kind of like turn things around. They have a lot of cash, focus on the issues, be a little bit less conservative. And kind of like the as you talk, if people watching, we appreciate you guys being involved. If you talk to friends or family, always be kind, always be respectful. Take the well, you just called, like, I guess technically you just called MAGA stupid, but always be kind.
Do you disagree?
What's the question?
Overall, do you think that like MAGA as an ideology is stupid and that people
as an ideology? Yeah, it's stupid.
Okay, and what about people? And what does that make people who believe it?
I think this is actually an interesting discussion that you and I don't look at the camera like that. Don't look at the camera like that. Well, here's the problem, Harry. I think you and I I don't know. I think I'm like.
You don't have to say all MAGA. I would not go on a limb and say like every person that's in MAGA is stupid.
Okay.
But what I will say,
jeez.
what I will say is that the die-hard people.
Okay, I agree.
Are stupid.
Well, so let me like explain my thinking for a second. I agree with that. I agree that like the very diehard, like you know what I mean when I say that. The very diehard MAGA, dumb, stupid. I also think, I don't know. I always like, and some people say like even I'm too conservative about this when I'm on TikTok Live, or I'm like don't kind of like swing hard enough on this, but like I don't know, man. It's just I'll give you like kind of like a personal story. Like my grandparents on my mom's side, both voting for Trump. And they're probably watching this podcast, which is hilarious. They actually like very much support me and like always give me very kind words, but very much like disagree. And like we don't talk about it because if we did, it would not go well. Anyways, but they talked about like they're very much caught up in like the Biden criminal mastermind, like all the MAGA stuff. But they're also like the economy was better and we're on a fixed income and we just want the economy to be better. And so it's like, as to see like to like watch and know like at the bottom of all the reasoning, there's like, even though I very much disagree with this reasoning, which is like we're on a fixed income, we have to get through retirement, we want to keep our house. I don't think that's a reasonable explanation, but does that like make them? Is that like would that be? Maybe I'm just like I don't know.
No, I mean like if someone is like just on a simple level, maybe they don't pay attention to politics all that much. They're like I just felt better under Trump. Like, I thought the economy was better and things like that. And, I mean, maybe in the case of your grandparents, I want to keep my house, whatever it might be. I'm like, I can understand that. I can understand that, if this is not something you are passionate about, you don't do it like we do, which is not normal, by the way. We don't do it. It's not you shouldn't do what we do.
You should not do it.
It's very unhealthy.
It is. It's really unhealthy.
But if
have you eaten today?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, same.
Have you?
No.
Yeah.
Continue.
By the way, it's like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm so sorry.
No.
If you're not passionate, if you're not weird like us,
it's easy. It's easy to like get wrapped up in like, oh, it was this way then, but it's not this way now. I want to go back to that.
But not true at all. Right.
Well, not true at all. But once you start dabbling in the Joe Biden's a mastermind criminal, I'm gonna have some problems.
He said I'm gonna have some problems.
I'm gonna have some problems.
So let me ask you this: a lot of people also want to know. A lot of the conversation we hear nowadays. Moving for a second, because I love you, Grandma and Grandpa.
Love you, Grammy.
There's a lot of people. MAGA are great people. All people. Some people say. How many people? Anyways, when do you think that you like? People ask us this all the time on Twitter too. This I feel like is dominating right now. They're like, we're paid by the DNC, or we're kind of like. People want to know a lot about our past often. And so I also wanted to kind of bring up, like, when do you think the first time you got, like, you kind of were like, holy shit, like, Donald Trump is, like, a problem. I feel passionate enough to, like, maybe not, maybe just passionate enough to, like, as a 16, 17-year-old, like, try to learn about it. Do you kind of remember that for yourself?
Good question.
It's a great question.
It's a great question. So terrific.
one of the best questions. No one can ask questions.
No one
like
does questions better.
No one. I know a lot about wind. That's what he said. I was telling Harry a minute ago before we started this podcast, like I was reading, like we always say, the other thing Democrats need to do is no one seems to remember, even the people who hate Donald Trump. A lot of people don't seem to remember how bad Donald Trump's presidency was. What are you laughing about?
I just can't get over the quote you read to me earlier. I know so much about wind.
I know, dude. Like, people don't remember how every single day was so disastrous and embarrassing on, like, a domestic policy level, foreign policy, but also just, like, obviously the things he said. It's like I read some story, like, I scrolled for a while to find this. It's like it's like 2019. He went to, like, a congressional committee, like, annual dinner or something very random. And he got up on the stage and he started rambling, and he was talking about how windmills, he said that if you live next to a windmill, your home value will go down 75%. And he said also they say the noise causes cancer. And the following month the following few months he'd go to a rally and say, like, essentially say, I don't support windmills because they don't work when the wind's not blowing. And he would go on to say this quote, like, oh, well, I have to tell my wife we're not going to be able to watch TV. Honey, you can't watch TV. Wind's not blowing. I know a lot about wind. And, like, objectively, I don't think I need to explain why all three of the things I just said are, like, incredibly stupid.
I want to remind you of another quote while we think about that from Donald Trump. It goes, I have the best words. He says, I know words. I have the best words. And he's saying, I know wind.
I know wind. It's going to be one of the wettest hurricanes we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. What a great. I mean, dude, when we're looking at dude, it's stunning to me. Like, we have to look at, like, when you have to teach kids politics in school. I remember being 6 or 7. Dude, I remember being
from the standpoint of water.
That's my favorite Donald Trump quote ever. When you're 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, I remember watching Obama get inaugurated and thinking, this is like, understanding it was like a big deal. I was young. I was born in 2002. And so, like, I remember listening to a man who was so just incredible. Obama's my favorite president, so inspiring. I remember, realizing, like, this is a really incredible family man, the way he speaks, so inspirational. And, like, think about the quotes, some of the famous quotes from each of the presidents. Some of them objectively shitty. Bush, shitty president. But you line up all these quotes, and then you have, like, some of Obama's favorite quotes, some of, like, these very powerful things for politicians, very inspirational, and then just Donald Trump. It's going to be one of the wettest hurricanes we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. What a fucking what a genius. What
a stable. You remember that photo of Donald Trump looking at the eclipse with no glasses on? He's like we all know, don't stare at eclipses.
It's like, yeah.
He's like,
it's like, I'm pretty sure right before that, he's like standing next to Melania, like right before that, they had just done, I don't know, there's just something, because I guess that was at the White House, but like everyone had just been like informed not to, because they handed out the glasses, and then they had been informed not to look at the sun.
Yeah.
And then, Donald Trump like comes out. I think he had the glasses on.
Yeah, let's find
this. And then he took them off. And he just immediately looked straight at it.
He looks straight at the eclipse, which, by the way, can blind you. All right? Look at this. I know. He's just blinking.
Yeah, he had just taken off his glasses.
Oh, yeah. Here he is with the glasses on. And then he takes them off and starts pointing at the eclipse. I mean.
Dude, that picture of Barron is crazy, He's like 6'7".
Yeah, that guy's real tall.
The Lakers need him, bro. I don't know what the Trump family's doing, but get him on the. I'm a Lakers fan, bro. Get him on the Lakers.
Get him on there.
But no, what do you think the first moment is that you were like, Trump needs to? What are you looking at now? Are you looking at funny Trump quotes?
Listen to this. All right, we're gonna do some more Trump quotes, and then we're gonna answer your question.
Go do it.
Quote: I had some beautiful pictures taken in which I had a big smile on my face. I looked happy. I looked content. I looked like a very nice person, which in theory I am.
Nice. What do you think about that one? I want you to. You should find the Thanksgiving quote. There's a 2019 Thanksgiving quote that I read today too, where he's like, they're like, Mr. President, what are you thankful for? And he's like, I'm thankful. I'm not even lying. There's some quote about this. He's like, I'm thankful for myself for doing such a terrific job rebuilding this country.
Listen to it.
I liked it.
Listen to this. Quote, sorry, losers and haters.
It sounds like a 13-year-old on Reddit. Sorry, losers and haters.
Sorry, losers and haters. But my IQ is one of the highest, and you all know it. Please don't feel stupid or insecure. It's not your fault.
No way he said that.
It's a real quote.
Where did he, dude? I wonder when he said that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's always a good time. It's always a good time in paradise, right?
I mean, it's. I mean, some of these. I'm just trying to read through these. Oh, and I mean, I don't even want to read the one of him talking about his genitalia.
Oh, well, he's just like the one where he's like, they say I have small hands. I guarantee you there's no problem down there.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, to be an American, it's such a stain on the White House. It's such a stain on that building. It like hurts your head. It hurts your head, truly.
I mean, I just can't even believe it's freezing and snowing in New York. We need global warming. All right, I'm done.
The classic, like mixing up weather and climate. That's good. No, that's a good one.
He goes, we need global warming. Anyway, that's a little fun little interjection we just had.
It's the wettest standpoint we've ever seen. It's the wettest hurricane we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I think that same hurricane, he was like having a meeting with like FEMA or something, and he's like, there's gonna be, we've seen torrential downpours, so much water, so wet, incredibly wet, or something like very similar. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about right now?
I mean, anyway, to answer your question, after our little sidebar on Trump quotes, hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time.
I had a good time.
I was reading those quotes. I think for me, it was the debates, and it was the tape of him saying, grab women by the blank.
The general?
The debate. Oh, sorry. I should preface this by saying, like, in 2016. When I was, like, 16, 15
primary
years old.
debates?
No. The one versus Hillary Clinton.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what, 16, 15 years old whenever these were taking place, maybe 14 even. I don't even know. 2016, that would have been 14. Yeah, 14. I was just getting into politics, sort of just basically really getting into it, really starting to read. And, of course, Trump had, like, really terrible moments before that. But the debates, I remember watching them in English class, like in Ireland, right? They put them on in English class, and we'd watch
you were born in Ireland.
Yeah. No, I was
born you were born in Singapore,
yeah.
but then you lived
But I lived in Ireland during the time of the election, and we would watch them in English class, and I would watch them. We're all, like, me and a bunch of 14-year-old dudes, all boys school, were baffled at what we were hearing. We were like, what on earth is this guy doing? And they'd all look at me being like, It's you? It's your fault? I said, bro, I'm just a guy, dog. I'm just a guy.
This has nothing to do with me.
Nothing to do with me. I hate him. And I I specifically remember the one with a town hall type debate where, like, Trump was like, and I'm sure you guys remember this one. Trump was like stalking Hillary Clinton on stage. There's so much footage from that debate of which Trump is like in the scene behind Hillary Clinton, like in the camera. He's just like kind of like looking on. Dude, like, what's going on over there?
You mentioned that to me once, and like, I don't really like I remember that, and I remember like a lot of what he said, specifically like the famous like, you know, something about how like all of Hillary's friends use her tax loopholes. Or something.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember. You have to show me like some of those videos about like stalking.
I will for sure. Yeah, it was creepy, and then of course like the tape where he's like, I grab women by the blank. I don't even wait. They just let me do it. Or no, sorry. They not that they just let me do it. He's like, I just don't even wait. I just do it. That's what he said. Right. And that it's like
propelled you into.
Yeah, I mean, it really gave me the perspective. Like, Trump really sucks. But what about you? What was like the defining moment for you?
I don't know. I feel like I was just prepared to ask you. To be honest, I never even thought about my own. I feel like I don't know. I think like probably similar. I think like I really didn't know. Like we're so people are gonna laugh at this because we're so young. But like. You know, I didn't know who Donald Trump was. Like, obviously, we're too young. Like, we didn't know him as like the apprentice star or whatever. So, I don't know. I remember seeing him go down the escalator, like the escalator, and like not knowing who he was or like what was going on. And my father has always been like very invested in politics and news, but they would never tell me who they voted for or like what their views were. Like. They would like I love my parents to death, would guide me in like their direction, but they would never tell me. I guess from the standpoint is like they didn't want to like influence my like they kind of wanted to find it out. So I didn't know who they were like voting for a long time. But you know, I'd like when the news on my father like very invested. I'd be like, you know, what's going on? He's like, oh, you should watch the debates, whatever. And I don't know. I feel like I started watching debates. I'm sure like the tape for me was just outrageous. Like I was like, what the hell? I remember like starting to debate people like in high school and be like, this guy kind of seems like a fucking moron. Even as like a 14-year-old, you're kind of just like, or 15 or however. I guess I'm a year older than you, so I was like 15. And I was like, I think I remember the night he won. I remember like very vividly getting a haircut, and like the lady cutting my hair was like, what's up? I was like, not much. Just seeing if the country collapses tonight. I was like 15, like just hoping he didn't win. But I don't know. This is interesting. I struggle with my memory sometimes.
Get him out.
Get
him out. Yeah, no, Chris, do you have
Everyone does.
Do you have dementia?
Does. Hey, I might.
Do you have dementia? Are you fit to be on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Did you stumble over a word?
I did.
No, you got to get the fuck out.
I actually didn't even. I stumbled over multiple words, but I also like literally.
Get him out. Podcast over. No more episodes.
I have like a really bad memory about like before I was the age of like 10. It's pretty bad. That's actually a really good point. Like people ask me stuff like my family's like, do you remember like this trip a few years ago or something? I'm like, no, I have no.
No, but Chris, do you remember where you put one document 20 years ago? Do you remember this?
I couldn't
get him out.
He said, "Get him out."
Get the him
out.
out.
No, but I'm gonna think about that. You'll have to ask me on the next podcast,
Yeah.
like if I can go back and remember specifics. I do have a video in my phone. When I was getting really invested, downloaded of you on TikTok, which is hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Like scrolling all the way up my camera roll, I saw you with like the really like shaggy hair and like talking about something. During Trump's presidency, but I don't know. I think people in high school knew me as just like this raging liberal. Like I used to post these things on my Instagram story, to like private Instagram stories, like rant, like similar to my videos now, of like ranting in the like just in random places about politics and how it made no sense. And I was definitely less informed then, but it was it's really when I got invested. It's a good time.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I think like with Trump, like everything just kind of blends. So it's hard to remember like a specific moment where you're like, this guy really sucks. There's like not a moment where he hasn't sucked. It's just like a moment where you discovered how bad he sucked.
Well, right. Exactly. And I'm also curious how it's going to be even in November, dude. I feel like how much I think about politics now, and like I volunteer at the Georgia State Capitol as a staffer, and I do like social media, and this is my whole life. Like I wake up thinking about politics. I dream about politics.
Yeah.
I go to sleep thinking about like just I can only imagine people are going to ask us about this time in our lives, and I'm going to be like, I don't know. I don't really remember. It all just kind of blends.
Well, I'm curious. Does the DNC pay you to dream about politics, Mitch?
Yeah, so they pay me like on a per dream basis.
Per dream basis?
Because like when I originally got involved, because people often like on Twitter, people are often like, they tell me this. People tell me this all the time. Like your growth wasn't organic. Someone like suggesting I'm a plant or something. I guess, which like
makes sense to me.
They're like, well, first of all, it's very kind of them to suggest that like I just exploded. I'm just a super known figure.
Isn't that what's nice about it? Isn't that so flattering?
Yeah.
Like they're like, wow, I'm so impressed by this 22-year-old Chris Mowry's success that it must be fake.
Yeah. All right. I'm like, okay, that's odd, right. But also, So like when they first like approached me, because like this is the best use of their time. So they have like no idea who I am. I've never I don't have like any presence, but I guess they thought that like they should just pick up a random kid and like just tell him to talk about politics. Yeah. So what they did was when I went to Hillary's house, they planted this thing in my brain.
Okay.
And it can tell when I'm like dreaming about certain things, and they can like it's a meter of like telling if it's good or bad. And if I have like a good dream about politics that's good for Democrats, they like it's a direct deposit thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's not Neuralink, you'll be fine. No.
You'll
be all right.
They in the meetings they all laugh about that because like Elon's way behind it.
Oh yeah, he's way behind. No, exactly. Well, that makes sense.
You know what? Can I tell you something also before we end this off?
Yeah.
I really enjoy the fact now that like there's actual people online who will quote tweet this conversation, and like Twitter is so conspiratorial nowadays that like if you get something like with a little bit of like we've joked about stuff like this on podcasts, people will be like, what did they? I think one time you joked about going to Epstein's Island, and there was like multiple tweets. I was next to you. We were in person at that time too, not for a podcast, for like a video. People were like actually suggesting. They're like, do you think like is Harry like? You can clearly tell that like he's not joking by his. They were like zooming in on you and I's facial expressions when you said it. So I also just enjoy this because I like the fact that like as we continue to like make jokes about it, more and more people will like try to analyze it.
Oh yeah, but that's who he knows. Like, The MAGA stupid people. You make it easy.
I agree. If you're on Twitter trying to analyze whether like what we just said is a joke, you
God, I'm mean, aren't I?
I think you and I have different dynamics.
Yeah.
I think I'm too nice.
Maybe
I don't know.
I'm too mean.
I don't know that you're too mean. I don't know that you're mean at all. I think I'm just too nice, and maybe that makes you appear mean when you're not. You know what?
I just have a zero tolerance policy for them.
Zero tolerance. That's good. That's good. Zero tolerance. You know what they say. So what are we gonna do after this? What are we gonna do after this?
Bro, eat. Can we eat, please?
Yeah, we should eat. Play some Madden.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll pop a TikTok live. All right, guys, listen, that's it for us. We're out of here. If you enjoyed the podcast, it really mean a lot if you could give us a like, or if you're on Spotify, a review, or on any of those platforms, a review or a like on YouTube. Subscribe if you want to. We'll be back next week, Monday at 1:00. We're gonna get better about the podcast. We apologize. Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for all your support. It has been absolutely incredible, amazing. We do not take you for granted. And you can go check us out on TikTok. Watch our TikTok live debates every night. Our DMs are always open on Instagram. We do get quite a few DMs, but we always read them and try to respond. So just know we appreciate you and we love you. And we're also you can in the description of either Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or whatever you're listening on, there'll be info or links to all of our socials if you want to check it out. That's about it. Any final words?
No, I think we'll wrap it up there.
You know what they say, Harry? When life gives you lemons, democracy never. Democracy never bends. Democracy never breaks. It bends, but it doesn't break, Harry. We're gonna win in 2024.
Clip it. Sorry.
What? I stumbled. I stumbled over a word. All right, we're out of here.
All right,
We love
bye,
you
guys.
guys. Mwah.